Our next presentation will be given by Michael McManmon and Sandra Wise, and the topic is Visual and Social Thinking Strategies. They're going to share in the discussion. Michael's going to be speaking first, Sandra next, and I'm going to tell you a little bit about each of them. Michael P. McManmon, Dr. McManmon grew up the youngest son in a family of 9 children. He's the father of 6 children and 9 grandchildren. He received his BA in English from Mount St. Mary's College in Maryland and went on to complete his master's in counseling from Shippensburg University. He obtained his doctorate in special education from the University of Nevada, or Nevada for those who are from there. Subsequently, he was licensed as a psychologist by the state of Massachusetts. He worked for state, private, and nonprofit organizations in several states prior to founding the Berkshire Center in 1984. During his 35 years of experience with students with learning differences and Asperger's syndrome, Dr. McManmon has worked on curriculum development, staff training, program evaluation, and administering community-based programming. Dr. McManmon's program philosophy is to provide a loving and trusting environment in which personal growth can occur. He's the author of Made for Good Purpose, What Every Parent Needs to Know to help their adolescent with Asperger's, high-functioning autism, or learning difference become an independent adult. Dr. McManmon serves on the U.S. Autism and Asperger Association Advisory Board. And Sandra R. Wise, PhD. As a licensed clinical psychologist, Dr. Wise has worked in private practice, was the director of mental health for several Colorado prisons and for the Delaware State Department of Corrections. She has taught graduate level courses in clinical psychology and has conducted numerous workshops and clinics. In 2002, Dr. Wise began utilizing principles of applied behavioral analysis to train horses and cattle. Dr. Wise's equine-assisted programs focus on issues such as impulse control, anger management, problem-solving, goal-setting, and social functioning. She facilitates interactions with horses that build skills in nonverbal communication, opportunities to address social deficits through interactions with living, breathing, responsive beings that can provide honest and immediate feedback without judgment, bias, or condemnation. Moreover, clients need not be concerned with verbal language, which can often obfuscate and overshadow the important nonverbal aspects of social interactions. These qualities make this model particularly well suited for persons with autism spectrum disorders who need a safe, non-threatening environment to practice social thinking and nonverbal communication skills. So please let's welcome our panelists, and we're grateful to them.
So I now have 12 grandchildren and 13 on the way, and a great-grandson too. So, this is going to be a little bit of you're going to have a unique experience here this afternoon, let's put it that way, because we're adding a lot of different visual techniques. So what I want you to do before we even start is, if you have a piece of paper, and I have extra paper up here if someone wants to pass it out, I want you to take a piece of paper, just fold it in half. We're going to get right into it. Fold it in half again, and fold it in half and again, and then fold it in half one more time. And what you'll have, so just keep folding it until you have 16 squares, right? Like this. And then what I'm going to show you to do is a visual technique that if I had this technique in high school and college, I would have had straight A's. And I'll show you why. Okay, so first of all, I want to mention that I usually do this with Oliver West, and that's his website, and he's from London, England, and he's a guy who has started some of this visual note-taking system. Okay, so Mark Twain actually is the one who sort of started this. Okay, he had a note-taking system in about 1899. and he used this 16 grid paper. He didn't use that, but we're going to go through that, and we're going to do through Carol Gray's comic strip conversations and talk about the effect of it in visual note-taking. So this is my notes when I did this, and I'm going to challenge you to take visual notes during this conference right now. So and some of you will be really good at it, and some of you will really be bad at it. But for you that are visual learners like I am, this is when I went to see him in London when he was presenting on visual note-taking. These are my notes, so I can look at this now and know everything he talked about from just looking at my little pictures that I sketched while he talked. And when I was in college, if I tried to make notes, it would be all over the page, and I wouldn't have any, I could go back and look at it, and it was just boring, and there's just some words on a page, and it didn't help me study at all, so I just didn't even take them after a while. So, and that's the second page of it, and you can see. It's very simple. You just add a few words here or there, any kind of pictures that help you, and you can put all your ideas down. And, okay, so Mark Twain started this system, and he said, dates are hard to remember because they consist of figures. Figures are monotonously, unstrikingly in appearance, and they don't take hold. Pictures can make dates stick. They can make anything stick, particularly if you make the pictures yourself. So what he did before he had a speech is he would take an idea, he started using pictures on little cards, and then he would have his whole speech in maybe just a few pictures, and he would remember all of the rest of it from the pictures. So, and he would throw the pictures away, and he remembered it forever. So those of us who have visual memories, like who's read Temple Grandin's book on thinking in pictures or whatever, my staff came to me and they said, Michael, you got to read this book. And they said, just get through the cow part. Don't worry, just read it anyway. Yes, just get through that boring cow part. It'll drive you crazy. But when you get to the last two chapters, you'll see why I want you to read it. So I read the book, and when I got to the last two chapters, it was like a Declaration of Independence for me. It was like someone knew who I was, and I didn't even know I was a visual learner, that much of a visual learner my whole life. So anyway, these are some of the things he did. So these are some of the notes that he made. Here are 3 pictures, and this is what they meant. The first one was a haystack, and that meant below it is a rattlesnake, and it told him where to begin his story about ranch life in Carson Valley. The second one, was an umbrella, I guess, and it told him where to begin a talk about the strange and violent wind that used to burst upon Carson City from the Sierra Nevadas. And then on the third one, is those 2 lightning things there. And that showed him that it's easy to perceive that lightning, its duty was to remind him that when it was time to begin talk about San Francisco weather, where there is no lightning, no thunder in that city because of the way the weather patterns are. So Carol Gray also used this, and anyone who's seen her comic strip conversations, where she did little conversations for kids to have them learn social thinking device. So you just basically make a conversation out of it, and you can set up a little diagram. And I'll show you mine that I did. So this is one that she did. Jimmy reacts inappropriately when people in his environment use a loud voice. He created this comic strip conversation using characters from his favorite TV show to provide him with the appropriate response to, ouch, that hurts my ears, don't talk so loud, okay? Instead of Jimmy hitting the loud person in his environment, right? So he learned to use this and it was a visual. So this is one that I did. I had a little boy I tried to have an adoption with this little kid who ended up being taken back because he had so many problems. So he had problems whenever you wanted him to do anything, just about anything. But when he was playing on the playground, you couldn't get him to do anything. He wouldn't leave there. And so I said, this is a typical situation. I showed this to him. I made this little diagram. It says, I want to go out. He wants to go play in the backyard. I said, no. And then he says, I want to go out. And he starts crying, getting on the floor. I say, no. And then he starts crying more and more and more. And then I say, what do I say? Now we cannot go out for pizza, for dinner, because I can't take him that way. Once he starts that, he's out of control. And he starts crying worse. And I said, go to your room. And he's crying more. Then I have to put him up in the room. And then he's crying, okay? So I showed him this. He said, that's you and that's me. And I said, yeah. And he's like 6-year-old. And then I said, now this is what I want you to do. So he says, I want to go out. And I say, no. And he says, can I go later? And I say, after dinner. And he says, okay. And then we go at the restaurant, we're eating the pizza, and then he's out there playing. And he got the whole thing from me just showing him in pictures what he had to do. And I gave him that to keep so that he had a copy of it. So it's just a little way that you can use a visual system with a child. And it took me a few minutes. I'm an artist, so I just make that out, like 5 minutes to draw that thing out for him. These are some of my other notes from of a to-do list that I made at the for a speech I was going to do, and some notes I had to remember to do things I had to do, and so you can do that for note-taking for a to-do list. Oops, I'm sorry. Go back. Okay. Then this is executive functioning and the visual thinking. So a lot of what we do with our students is very, visual for them, and organizational skills a lot of times they don't understand. So you can create charts like this, a little hygiene chart with pictures. You can create a picture schedule with pictures on it, and we even do this for our college students. And we try not to make it childlike, but it helps them if they're color-coded or you put them little pictures or symbols on there. And this is one system that we use. The backpack, everything goes in the backpack. What's your landmark notebook system, which is like a file that we use where we put all their tests, their school papers, their notes, and everything goes in there. Their syllabus in their landmark notebook, either a accordion file or a folder, and they can use either system. And then we also put all their computer, their cell phone, their backpack, everything goes in there. So that helps them to organize. So first semester, that's what the room looks like, and you start to work with them. And then we use things like this. You can use in their rooms. You can do visual things. You can do colored bins. You can do. We have kids who are going to college and doing really well with their executive functioning at college, but they couldn't find their paper. They couldn't organize their bedroom. It was a mess, disaster. So they would fail to show up and hand in their work. Another pickup later in the week. And I want to go back, and I sort of breeze through that because I want to spend some time showing you some videos. We have high school summer programs. You can come to the booth and talk about that if you want. And this is our programs. But what I'm going to do now is minimize this and maximize this. So I'm going to show you a couple of videos, and I'm doing really good for time, by the way.
Excuse me, Michael.
Yep.
We just need to ask you to speak a little bit more into the mic so that people.
Okay, I'll do that. And so what I'm going to do is show you a couple of videos regarding using the note system. Okay, and we'll start out with number 1 here.
It's helped me tremendously with confidence, and also just being able for me to express what I want to say and communicate so much more easily. With the briefs and reading and hacks, before I would read it, I wouldn't take it in, or if I wrote notes, I would come back to it and I couldn't make sense of them. But now using the grids, I would make the pictures of what I was reading, and using Ollie's techniques of scanning the page and picking bits out of different sections, I'm able to remember it easily. when it comes to lectures, I can make pictures for what's being said, and again I can my memory's got improved quite a lot. When it comes to crits, instead of just reading a piece of text and not understand that was it and I can't really elaborate on it, with the grids I can confidently look at the grid and be able to talk about it and feel more confident talking about the subject, and then kind of gradually flow on to the next image and the next one without having those awkward points of not knowing what to say. And my timing and stuttering and the speed of how I'm talking is slowed down tremendously. And I in the past I wouldn't have dared to give a presentation or petrified of talking in crits, and now with the aid of the grids I just feel a lot more at ease with what I'm talking about and with myself in general. So I feel like I'm a lot more intelligent now. I feel I can think better than I did before. I can see things in a different light, and I'm hopefully just using footnotes more, it'll develop. Yeah, this is helping my professional career now. I can stop in an evening and now and relax instead of having to work all evening. It's become more my life really now. Kind of just it's all coming together, and it's just confidence really. I just feel a lot happier.
Okay, and I'm going to give you another one.
This is something that Elridge did. Elridge is also known as Mole Hans, which translates as crazy Hans. He never writes, he never reads, he does nothing at school. The only expectation we really have of him is that he behave himself and not disrupt the class. I was really amazed when I saw these drawings. I had no idea that he could draw like this. Certainly if I had given him an instruction in class to sit and draw whatever, he wouldn't have done it for me. And obviously, I mean, mentally something is going on. Obviously, we are not able to measure it and give him grades for it because we never communicated with him on his level.
It's just my brain works in a different way, completely. If I didn't have that technique and that way of working, because it comes naturally to me to draw, it's a way of me sort of processing the things that come into my head, and then like to look at that is far easier for me to look at than a page of writing, and then to say, right, I need to do that today. Let's do that today, and get myself organised. I think more than anything. So yeah, it helped me dramatically, like change my life really.
It's reminding me to return home.
It's difficult to spell my spellings. I use one of these, and I carry these around in my pocket to draw stuff and remember how to write it. Me thinking how to write the word, and when I forget to write the word, I do that. I draw a picture, I draw a picture and I tick the right words.
You try and spell it, don't you?
Yeah.
And then why are you ticking them?
Because it helps me remember the word, and then I can do it right.
Yes, because you can remember which ones are the wrong ones, can't you? Yeah.
He was getting 0, 2, 4 out of his weekly spellings.
When was that?
Back in October.
Yeah.
And with the strategy that you showed us when we were up to Probus, he's now getting 10, 10. Yes.
And then you were saying you got them all done in 5 minutes last night. That is brilliant. Excellent.
Because of the pictures, they help me to spell.
Such a show.
When I knew that other people did the thing what I do, I felt happier because I knew someone else was doing it and not just me. When I was drawing these pictures, I would have it put me into the future, and it helped me think of ideas quicker. It's made me sort things out because I used to be really muddled with stuff and I couldn't sort it out that quick, and I wasn't like everybody else. But I can sort it out quick enough now and put it in order. And now I remember things better. And it helped me do when someone was talking behind me and tapping on my back saying, Josh, do you want to talk? I didn't listen to them and focused. And I used to be shy, and I didn't want anybody to ask me a question because I wasn't very good at questions. Now I am better because I draw the pictures and I can just come straight out with it. When I first met my cousins, I was like...
I'm going to stop there because I can go on. There's a couple more, but I want to let Sandra set up while I'm talking. So I'll go over here and I'll let her do whatever she has to do. You just unhook it all and do whatever she has to do. So the student that was nonverbal totally, and that was in South Africa. And it just shows you the effect of, if you're a visual learner, he couldn't express himself at all, but once he got that little venue there, he could put down all of his ideas. Some ways you can use this is, for me, I could have used it in college for all of my note-taking. I could have used it for doing an outline for a paper, and it would have been so much easier, because I found like written and verbal language boring. Like I couldn't read the textbooks. Like if they were on videos, I might have been able to watch them or something, but there weren't any video textbooks. So I just never read the textbooks, and I never, except if it was something I was interested in, like art or English literature, I would read the book. But everything else I never read, and I never could study because I didn't have any notes. And I would go back looking at the textbook and get bored and fall asleep. So basically, I passed everything anyway, somehow. But I would have been straight A's easily if I had had a system like that where I would recall everything. And all I would need is a little picture, and I would remember the whole story that he told or about that, you know. It wouldn't have probably helped me in math because I would have just been doing the figures that he did on the board, which I didn't understand from the beginning, right? But it would have helped me in every other subject. So also, when we're talking about the social effects of it, you could see the social effect on him where he felt competent. He felt like he was with it. If you were in a class and you're lost, if you're keeping your notes, I'm not distracted when I'm drawing pictures. I'm listening better. I'm listening better because I'm drawing a picture about what he's talking about, right? Or she's talking about. So I'm connected. So if he asks me a question, I'm going to look at it and I say, oh yeah, this is what it's about. But if I'm not drawing a picture, I'm way out in la-la land somewhere, usually in the back of the room. I never knew to sit in the front of the room because I was too afraid he'd ask me a question and I wouldn't know what he was talking about. So it just connects you with what you're studying or what you're doing. As far as the implications socially, you know, I think we showed in my little thing how you can use it. And you can use that on any level with college student, high school student, or anyone. So the social implications are that students, I mean, you know, Michelle Garcia Winner has that little chart that you use, you know, the expected and the unexpected, but it's all in words. Now, if you did that with pictures, like an example would be, you have a student who's just done something wrong, you know, really inappropriate, and you're trying to help them learn the opposite behavior. So you would put down, okay, your roommate wanted to watch TV, and this is what you did. You had a fight with him, right? So this is how we write down on one side. If you used her chart, you would just write down all the things that happened. He turned it on, and I did this, and this is what happened, and this was what the effect of it was. We both got in trouble, or he doesn't want to be my roommate anymore, or all this other stuff, right? On the other side, you'd say, okay, how can you do it differently? So if you had responded to him this way, what would have happened? and then you put down the results. But if you did that in pictures, it might seem childish, but it gets, you know, it forms a better thing. Does anyone ever hear of video self-modeling? You know what that is? That's really powerful. I was telling the guy out there who was doing the potty training app, I said, what you do in video self-modeling, which is really effective, and then I'm going to shut up right on time, give you a whole half hour. She's happy because I was giving her 20 minutes before. But so video self-modeling is, let's say you want to learn a skill, and you want a student to learn a skill, and it's a complicated skill. What you do is you videotape him doing each part of it. Then you put it together, and it looks like he did the whole thing. So if you were potty training, you'd say, okay, I got to go to the bathroom. That would be number one, right? So you have videotape him saying that. Then you videotape him on the next phase, going to the bathroom, opening the seat or putting it down or whatever you're doing. And then, you know, getting on it, take his pants down, getting on the seat, or whatever. You would videotape the whole thing, and then you would put it together in a little video clip, and he'd see himself doing the whole entire thing. And he didn't do the whole thing, but if you could see yourself, if they could do a videotape of me jumping over, you know, a big thing that I could never do before, I'd say, oh, look, I can do that. So it's very, very powerful because it's actually you doing it in all the steps. But each individual step, I mean, even though you don't know how to do the whole thing, you can do each little step, can't you? But when you put it together in a video clip, it looks like you did the whole thing, and then you just have to show that to him. So I had this little adoptive kid who didn't work out because he had these huge emotional issues that was a disaster, basically. And but what we did is we have a van, and we have a video screen in the back seat. And so on the way to the mall, we purchased these little video things. You can get them online. And it was how to act at the mall, right? So, and it had some sort of crazed woman singing, you know, like, this is what we do at the mall. And then it goes, you know, I'd say next to mom, I hold her hand. If I want, I keep track of where she is, you know, all this kind of stuff. But it really worked with him, you know, he's watching this thing, and he goes, and afterwards you can hear him back there saying, I need to stay close to you, you know. He's saying all the whole things. So these type of things really work, especially if you have kids who are visual learners, obviously, you know. And it's even more powerful when you have the actual student's picture or drawing. If they're drawing it out, like that little boy drawing out his things himself, because I remember everything I can take any piece of my art and I can tell you where I drew it, where it's from, when I was there, what I was thinking about it, everything, you know, and so it's very powerful. So we're going to go on now. I want to introduce Dr. Sandra Wise again, because this is how we met. So our students, we happened upon her at Florida Institute of Technology down in Florida. We have a center in Melbourne, and she does equine-assisted therapy. So I don't know how did you actually meet? Did you? A newspaper article she saw about us, and she contacted us. And then so I said, well, I'll go check this out when I come down there. So I went out to the farm with the 1,400 acre or whatever it's 4,000 acres in the middle of Florida, about a 45-minute drive or so from our center. And I said, I'm going to show me and put me in the pen and I'll do it, you know. And I went out there twice, and I had these big openings. She'll talk more about it. But that's how we met. Now we have a little program we're doing with our students down there. We've, in the last couple years at our center, and it's the last sentence I'm going to say, until later, is we had a little program down at all of our centers. I decided, being the head ASPE, that we are going to get these kids out of the talk therapy. We have talk therapy for everything, advising, clinical, social thinking, everything. I said, let's get them out of the freaking offices and getting them doing things. So we hired an art therapist. We started a visual performing arts center with a Spectrum Playhouse and an art gallery and studio spaces. And we encouraged each center and each program director to do what they did in Florida. And they came up with this concept to offer this extra program. So each of our centers is doing more, getting kids more involved in a way that they can learn other than just talk therapy or sitting in classrooms, because this is a real problem for them, right? Other than every one of them being on internship, You know, we have every one of them on an internship, but every one of them doing community service also, which helps getting them out there too. So here's Sandra, and we'll keep going.
I'm going to use my mouse right there, so if there's room for my mouse, I guess. Yeah, I'm going to use my mouse here. Okay. Oh, this might be really loud. Hold your ears. I don't know what this is. I'm not a tech person. Okay, we have to have a little bit of ambiance. Okay, thank you, Michael. I'm going to explain in the next slide, but I don't want to put that slide up because it's only got words on it. And this is all about visual social thinking and everything that Michael talked about. So our slides really have to reflect that. I hate slides that only have words on it because the audience is busy reading, and this program is different. So here's the ugly slide with mostly words, but the reason we have the slide up here, I want you to understand where all this fits in terms of visual cues. This is all about visual social thinking, so we're going to talk about each one of those very quickly. Then I have a lot of pictures and videos, so much like Michael's videos, you can actually see the students doing these things. Just to orient everybody, in terms of visual cues, there are two very large categories: representational visual cues, and they're all symbolic. And then there are what I call experiential. That's the real thing. You're looking at the real thing. So as you go down this list, and this is to illustrate the concept stop. So the written word, S-T-O-P, as you see there, that's a visual cue. That is a visual cue. It's not very close to reality, though. The next one, icons. And a lot of Michael's work that he presented, you're working at the icon level. A little bit closer, you see a cartoon of a hand, something like that. Then photographs, something a little more lifelike. Videos, movies, photographs, and then the last one, which I can't put a picture up there because it would be a role play, which is an artificial situation, much more lifelike if you're going to act something out, but it's still artificial, it's not real. And then the last category is experiential, that is the real thing, and that's the level that my work operates at. So let's look at what is experiential learning. I have two quotes up there that I just adore. I hear and I forget, I see and I remember, I do and I understand. And then the second one, which is Aristotle, for the things we have to learn before we can do them, we learn by doing them. And if you could project yourself into that setting, which unfortunately is a two-dimensional picture again, but if you could project yourself into the setting as if that were really you up there, demonstrating the concept stop, that's vastly different than seeing it in a cartoon or a video and so forth. You are actually using your entire body. So think of this, you're not just engaging your mind, a thinking process. Proprioceptive cues are in there. You're not acting out. You are stopping this animal that might weigh about 1,000 pounds and so forth. So experiential learning is the most powerful kind of learning because it's encoded at a deeper level with all body and mind and emotional processes in gear at the time. Another boring slide. We're going to be past these in a minute. Key points about experiential learning, and for those of you that are in education, John Dewey was the first one to really talk about experiential learning, doing something and then processing it in terms of an educational model. But here's some high points. It's learning from direct experience, learning by reflecting on doing, not through rote memory, discovering knowledge firsthand instead of seeing, hearing, or reading about others' experiences. It requires no teacher because the individual is his own teacher. The individual makes meaning out of his or her direct experience. And I love the quote, I don't know if it was Stephen Shore this morning, someone said it again, if you've met one person with autism, you've met one person with autism. It's all individual, so having an opportunity so the person can make their own meaning out of an experience is incredibly powerful. So now where does this fit into the big picture? So we talked about experiential learning. So visual social thinking, I just put a quick definition. That's kind of what my program is all about. Using visual cues to aid in determining what others are thinking. Why is that important? Because we form our behaviors in accordance with what we think others are thinking. This is the whole theory of mind, so forth. And others judge us on those behaviors. All these photographs, by the way, are from Michael's students that were in the summer camp. So if they come to the Brevard campus, they will have this kind of experience. And you can learn a little bit more about the facility. We do have 4,700 acres. It's a wildlife preserve. Most of our horses live like wild horses. Very few of them are trained. And we don't put halters on them and ropes and so forth. And all our work with horses and cows, they're not tethered, and it's not about riding. Certainly not the cows, but not even the horses. So I struggle trying to do what is called the elevator speech about what do you do, because people think it's about riding, hippotherapy. It's not. This is about social thinking skills, and we provide an avenue, a vehicle whereby persons with autism can experience a relationship with the population that is very similar, and we'll get to that in a minute. So don't let me get off track of the teaching part of this, and then we'll see some videos in a minute. So that's what visual social thinking is, okay? And it's a skill. I put this picture in black and white or sepia so that you wouldn't get distracted by the pretty setting, the beautiful color of the horses. Look at the different responses on those horses as this young student who is about 14 sitting out in the pasture. Each horse is responding differently. Another thing to remember, horses are animals of prey. Many people don't realize that because they're large. Some people are intimidated by them. They're more afraid of you than you are of them. And we do all our work where the horses are free to leave, and the students just go out in, one of our classrooms is the open pastures, and the horses can run a mile away if they want to. And we also do some closer work that Michael's video will show you, but so back to the teaching part, visual social thinking is a skill, and when you think about that, what is a skill? So we got a quick definition of a skill. These are more of his students from the summer program. A skill is something you do. It's not just something you know how to do. I know how to bull ride. You get in the little cage, you get on the back of the bull, you grab a hold of the rope, cowboy opens the gate, the bull runs out, you stay on for 8 seconds. I know how to do that. You think I have that skill? No. So many times classroom work doesn't translate, it doesn't generalize, and that's why the experiential piece is so important, is if they can learn while they're doing it, it's a different kind of learning. Yes, please.
Because this is the big one that we run into with our ASPE students. They know it in their head. I know how to do that. And then we'll say, well, show us, because they all are know-it-alls. I know how to run a store. I know how to handle, because they know it in their head. They've seen it on television. They know, yeah, we know how, like she just described. But doing it is a whole different ballgame, and doing it consistently and showing up, and that's where the rubber meets the road. So we have to challenge that notion, because they always are saying that to us. Why do I need to know? I know this already. That's what they say all the time.
Very good, so true. And that's why then the word that you can use is experiential learning and then skill learning, because, let's see here. To learn a skill, you need feedback. And despite the wonderful work, let's take the little cartoons that Michael was showing. You don't have feedback, immediate feedback, as to when you're learning this skill, as to whether you can do it or not. So I have a couple pictures here of horses reacting in different ways. On the right-hand side, these guys really don't want anything to do with the individual because of the behaviors that person is engaging at the time. You can tell in Curly Fry's eye there, he's going, whoa, I'm not really interested in engaging you there. And the little one left. I'm out of here. And over on the left there, these two horses, the top one very interested in meeting this student halfway, and in the one on the bottom there, oh yeah, more, give me more, I like that. So you get immediate feedback about how you're doing in terms of learning a skill. Okay, here he is in all his glory, and I think we have time to go ahead and show this. I've got some other ones of the student, or maybe we'll wait that. Let me introduce it this way. This is another one of our classrooms. One is the big pasture that you saw. I'll wait till the end in case Michael might want to, go out the back door. This is what I do about the essentials to do this kind of work. You need, in this case, a man, a horse, and a stick. Because everybody asks about that stick. So the stick is simply an extension of your arm. So if we're doing close-up work like this, and you want to make your body language more distinct and highly visual, but horses can see the slightest move, but you can have a stick. So all we need is a man, a horse, and a stick. So we'll come back to Michael's video in a minute. I want you to watch the beginning of this. This is an older gentleman, and with severe social skills deficits, and he puts this in his own words, so you kind of see it in action, then we'll go back to the summer program.
Well, my first impression of this class was that I didn't quite believe it too much. Mostly, I would want to say that I was kind of skeptic about this whole thing.
Is that good enough louder?
What are you looking at, huh? You're looking at something, aren't you? That's all right. Good boy. That's a good boy. Yes. Hey, it's a good boy. I'm not going to hurt you.
Dennis, excuse me. Dennis, what are these?
It's almost like a fence.
Almost like a fence, okay? And you have to keep him in a fence?
Well, if I put him down, he's going to go to the right of me, or he's going to go to the left of me.
If you put them down?
Yes.
What might happen if you backed up a little bit?
Well,
what do you think might happen?
I don't think he's going to come to me. Hello, baby. Hey, come here. Come here.
Could you give him a little more room?
Yep. Good boy. Good boy.
What happens when he just takes one little step back?
I learned about myself today that to listen to what somebody else has to say and to give it a try. Primarily that by listening to somebody else and trying something different, other results may happen from it.
Would you be open to changing one little piece of your scenario here?
I'm willing to listen.
Oh, okay, you're willing to listen. Okay.
Yes.
Here would be some options. As I observe this, it looks to me like he's stuck in the corner.
Well, that's by choice, I think. And not to be argumentative, but I think that's by choice.
Not to be argumentative?
Because his friends are on the other side of that fence.
Someone thinks you pushed him into that corner.
Well, I don't think so.
Your goal is just to get him to trust you a little bit. Did this look like a good model to do that?
Well, okay. The one thing that clicked on ultimately was keep your mouth shut and just listen. And when I listened, I got somebody else's point of view.
Okay, but you're willing right now to try a little something different?
If I think it's going to work with me, yes.
Okay, you willing to try something with me?
I'm listening. I want to listen.
So, Dennis, I'm going to make this available to you here.
Yeah.
Okay. Is that something that you want him to do?
Well, yeah, he can do anything he wants.
Okay, then give him a bit of green.
Yeah,
there
you go.
And tell him good boy.
Good boy. Yeah.
Just keep your hand flat.
I know, I didn't want him to eat it all.
Okay, and don't give it to him until he does something you want him to do. And you're going to ask him to do something that you want him to do.
Yeah.
Then you're going to tell him by saying good boy. You're going to tell him by saying good boy to signify
Boundaries.
This is how I'd like you to interact with me. What happened? You lost him. You didn't keep engaged. Where were you? You were looking over here. You were talking to me. If you want to relate to another living thing, keep your focus on him. If you held your hand out with that grain, that's a bribe. That's conning.
Okay.
Rewarding other people in your life for behaviors that you want to instigate.
I didn't give it to him.
Give me a foot.
Give me a foot. Give me a foot.
That's it.
We look
Good boy.
don't we?
Great.
That's right. You're a good boy.
Thank you for trying something a little bit different rather than being a fence.
In order for them to be your friend, the biggest thing I got from it is they have to trust you and feel comfortable with you. Once you've got that, you're on your way.
So you were willing to change a little something because we went from, do this, do your fence again, do your fence at him. Look at the horse's head. What does he look like?
He's scared.
He's scared. So put the fence down.
Yeah.
So you think he came to trust you a little bit?
I believe that that's got an awful lot to do with it, that the horse trusts you.
Well,
you know, that you're not going to let that horse get hurt.
I think you accomplished your goal, and I heard you say you are a work in progress. That doesn't sound like
that better.
A person who is unwilling to change. A work in progress is...
No, if you have a better idea, and seriously, I felt what you were saying, like.
So I felt what you were saying. We'll cut that off because I've got lots more to go. He experienced it. Can you see the difference between talking about that or watching a video of it or watching a cartoon strip? Those things are helpful in the classroom, but if you could, if you can get these students out in a real world, whether it's with a person or a horse, and they experience it, he said, oh, I felt the difference. I could tell the difference. The learning is encoded at a much deeper level. So here's the experience with Michael's students. I got to thinking, I've worked with horses for about 12 years now. What folks don't understand about them and cows, we mentioned before, they're animals of prey. Human beings are predators. We're used to thinking about animals, and if you have pets, dogs and cats, they're predators. Animals of prey live in a totally different universe that we as humans, as predators, can't even relate to it. When I started getting involved with persons with Asperger's and hear them talk about, it feels like I'm living in an alien world because all the neurotypicals are doing all this stuff and I don't understand, I thought, whoa, maybe putting these two populations together, there would be a comfort zone, and we can see if they relate. So my idea was to see if these two populations could find a home together on the range. And this is the first experience that these summer camp students had. This is a pasture maybe 3.5 miles back into the depth of the ranch. There is a stallion in this pasture and then a group of brood mares. Some of the colts had already been born. Some of the brood mares were pregnant. All of the mares have never been touched. The stallions have, but they get branded in a squeeze chute, just like Temple Grandin used, is how we brand them, and they get, health checks and so forth, but they haven't been handled, haven't been trained, we don't ride them and so forth. So we just went out to the pasture, and here's the important part. I gave these students no instruction. I gave them no instruction so that they could form their own experience. And we take care of safety issues because if you remember, these are fight or flight animals. Look at how much space is out there. So we had a lovely young girl who got off the safari coach that we take back here, got off the coach, thought it was wonderful, saw the horses, and went, you can only imagine, I'm not going to do it in the mic. Whoa! You know where the horses went? About 2 miles back to the back of the pasture, yes. But they learn very quickly because horses will give you immediate, direct feedback. And the important thing, it's not judgmental. They're incredibly forgiving. They're very social. They're curiously cautious or cautiously curious. Either way, they're wonderful, and I'm going to call them instruments. That's kind of a left brain thing, because they're living, breathing, beautiful, beautiful beings, but we use them as an instrument to help persons with autism who live in the same flight or fight. You hear Temple Grandin this morning talk about that. That's where most persons with Asperger's live all the time. Well, that's where cows and horses live. So I thought they could relate, and I will tell you the experiences were phenomenal. So the video, we were in this pasture for about 45 minutes, and then we were in one with horses and cows. It doesn't work to show bits of a video when it is a process like that of bonding. So I've got photographs, and then I have a final video in the students' own words. So here we are. So this is Lizzie's story. So I do not coach, I just support from the sideline. So I wasn't giving her any instruction. And this is a young colt that had just been born within, this was in June, wasn't it, Michael? The summer camp. And these colts start being born maybe February, March, April, and so forth. So half of the mares were pregnant, half of them already had their babies. And the stallion out there in the pasture, very protective, and the moms are also. And so this is what Lizzie got up to this point, and I just took a few. So the mama is right by there watching, and she's judging all of us that were out there. Is this safe? Not? And this is why I don't like to use halters. We are in wide open spaces, so the horses have a choice. So the feedback that they're giving, if they're up there, it's because they want to be up there. And that touches these kids like you just can't believe. They're just blown away that these beautiful animals want to have a relationship with them. And look at what she ended up with. There are ranch hands that work on the ranch there, and they drive by in vehicles, so these horses have seen humans. But if they were to go up and try that, they wouldn't have accomplished this. These kids just were phenomenal because they're home on the range, interacting with a population that they understand and understands them. So this is Alex. So he had a similar experience, in that first pasture. This is what he ended up with. And then when we went to the second pasture, Alex transferred his skills to the horses. Cows are more skittish than horses. So when we went to this pasture, he first created a relationship with the herd of horses, and that is the stallion in the front, the darker one. The other two are pregnant mares. So this was about a 45-minute experience also. He decided he wanted to tackle the cows, so he went out in the pasture by himself. There he is, and just working up, using nothing but nonverbal communication and no input from me as to what to do. And you can see how far the land goes there. Those cows could have been out of there. And that is a thing of beauty. And the mama cows, if you watch, if we had a long time here, I'd explain the behavior of the mama cows, because at first they're very cautious and so forth. Then the mama cow said, you know, he seems okay. And the baby, look at those calves, just incredibly curious. So Levi's story is a little bit different. Levi, in addition to having Asperger's, has Tourette's syndrome, and his tic involves a very, very broad head movement and his arm. The earlier part of the experience and the entire coach ride back to the back of the ranch, he was ticking like crazy, like crazy. As soon as he got in the pasture and started interacting with the horses, he did not tick at all, and he had that awareness in the interview afterwards. He had the awareness that he did not tick at all, because believe me, if he went out doing this, the horse would not let him near it. And this is a pregnant mare, and the dark horse there is the stallion. So, and they all figured out. And for the life of me, and I don't care how they did it, because this is experiential learner, I'm not the teacher. We just provide a vehicle through which these students can have a relationship, can create a relationship, enjoy a relationship. And they all sort of figured out that there were postural cues that would make a difference, and to act like a horse or act like a cow. And part of that is to join the herd. You ask permission. The stallion and the matriarch mare will keep you out of the herd if you're suspicious or acting funny. Then they sort of give a signal that you're all right. And if you continue approaching and acting like a horse, they don't like to hold eye contact any more than you do. So I'm going to click through these very quickly because I want you to hear Bryson and Lizzie's interview. I'm going to there's the coach we come out in. There's the second pasture with the cows too. Bryson taught Lizzie a lot of sensory work here. What kind of stroking, and that's the stallion. And he's teaching Lizzie how to do that. He's coaching her. I didn't tell them anything. Now watch what happens to the stallion's head. You see how it lowers? That's a sign of submission, it's a sign of relaxation and comfort, and he's right there with his pregnant mares. Another view of that, now look what happens. And I'm going to show you their real quick interview.
When I was sitting down on the grass near the horses and the cows and all, I was just sitting there, but I would creep up just a little bit until I was close enough that the horse would hear me. Apparently the stallion heard that, and it saw that I was really calm and actually a nice person, and it came over and it allowed me to pet him.
We were, just slowly
watch how
coming
he's
up, and they were
reliving this
towards
experience.
us.
Watch his arm in a minute.
And we were going towards them. And
he's acting it out, reliving it.
Once we got close enough, I put out my hand, she put out her hand, and we just started to touch the head, and the horse took another step forward, and then we got to the neck, and then we took a baby step forward.
He's even acting that part out.
Just petted the back of it. When he came up close, and I was petting the other side of his neck.
See the perfect mirroring of the
right
actual
side,
experience, and this was 2 days later that he did the interview.
So he put his arm on my, or put his head on my arm, and then he just started to fall asleep, started rubbing, and then it started to cut off the circulation, and immediately I felt love at first.
That's what you want to hear from these people. I felt an emotion, I felt love.
Back in St. Pete, we don't really actually have any, we're not allowed to go up to horses and actually interact with them, but this is the first experience that I've ever had.
Apparently, as I found out, that I got to pet one of the pregnant mares, and the stallion didn't even react. It's like he trusts me and all. He knows I'm a really nice person. I wouldn't do any harm. And I just started petting the mare, and she just put her head up and started kissing me and wanting to sniff through my hair too. And
bonding.
And that's the kind of stuff that we want to hear from these kids, that they've actually experienced it without any coaching, without anybody doing any interpretation for them. And remember, I went back and did these interviews 2 days later, and I was astonished. He was able to recreate right there, so he was reliving that. So here's the point again about experiential learning. It is encoded at a deeper level. You're using proprioceptive cues, you're using the entire personage, all of your senses, the smells and so forth. These are the kind of experiences we want these kids to have. So thank you very much for indulging me. Let's see. Do we have a few minutes? I can play Michael's, because he was so nice to defer. It's just about a 2-minute thing, and you can see he's a good egg to let me use him as an example. He has not seen it. Okay, wait a minute. Let me figure out how to go back. Here we go, okay. Where is it? He is a very good egg to let me use him.
Yeah, come on.
And this is homemade, so there's some noise on it. This is our other classroom, 40-foot round pen, very safe. Two colts never been touched. They stick together like glue.
They're stuck together, they're, bonded at the hip.
The other way.
And that draw to go back to the comfort zone of being right together.
Michael wanted so much for them to like him.
By using eye contact only with the brown one, you are sending messages to the gray one. Because this is what I want students to learn, that people around you are taking you in, even if you aren't focused on them.
See how he's kind of crowding the horse?
Something to learn.
Putting a lot of pressure.
Little dance. Kind of see if you can get the energy level down. You can back away from him a little bit and kind of give space.
ADHD.
Come here.
Now, do you think he's ready to come to you?
No.
No. So why are you trying to force that on him?
So why'd you do that?
Because you had it, and the gray one was standing still, but then you put too much pressure on the brown one.
Okay.
So, being that you're throwing so much attention to this guy and kind of crowding him at times and coming up to him when he's not ready, what does that tell you? You might want to change your strategy a little bit. Nice. That was calm. So I would say, working on your first goal, you're in an awful hurry to accomplish that second goal.
I definitely, all the time in everything I do, am in a hurry to get the result.
There's insight number one.
Part of that is an energy level problem, and I think that was your urgency, your drive to accomplish your goals quickly and see the end result, and not really enjoy the process as much as the final goal.
It's actually more goal-driven than trying to form a relationship.
Yes.
Insight number two. After an hour, and he was sweating in there, it was hot.
There we go.
Good boy.
There we go.
Good boy. Come. Good boy. I know I had you picked right. Good boy.
Perfect.
Good boy.
That was lovely.
Yes. Thank you so much for letting us know.
So we're a little bit over, but if you have to leave, leave. If you have some questions, we'll stay for another 5 or 10 minutes. Any questions? Comments?
Just a real quick announcement. We have a half-an-hour break, and then in the main, call A, Convention Room A, there's a session you probably won't want to miss on bullying and teasing, which will be very, very important. So thank you.
Dr. McManmon is on that panel.
He's on the
Yeah, I'm on the panel.
Dr. McManmon's on the panel.
I just want to say my experience with that video was that after, that was the first time I went. The second time I went, she didn't show you the video of that one. The second time, I realized that it went even further. Like, I realized with my staff that I'm not really clear. I'm not directive, and I don't say exactly what I want. So the horse brought that out in me. When I got back to Massachusetts, I had a meeting, and this woman was, had this whole thing set up, and I said, well, that's really not my vision, and this is exactly what I want you to do. And I was so directive that I said, and I knew exactly where it came from. It came from, I'm giving cross messages to people. I'm not being directive. I'm not really being clear about what I want. And the animals taught me that, as well as the relationship stuff. I always want to go from A to Z. I don't want to do the intermediary steps to build relationships. And so the horses you can't get anywhere with them unless you do it their way, which is the calm
way, and then they come to you. So, and the other thing I wanted to say, last thing I wanted to say, was that that emotional feeling of that horse coming to you was so huge. And there was a video I saw once online with a woman who had had many broken relationships, and they put her in there and let her pick her horse out of the whole group, and she couldn't get any horse to stay with her. As soon as she tried to teach them, they'd run away and everything. And so this one horse she focused on, she started to work with, and then it just sort of took off on her. And the psychologist that was with her said, "What are you feeling?" "I'm feeling this is how all my relationships worked, right? Every time I try to get close, they leave." So this horse came back around when she was calm and crying, came over to her and nudged her. And then she said, "What are you feeling now that this horse wants me?" And she said, "Do you want to work with this horse now?" And I said, "Yes." And she started to form a relationship with this horse. So you can see how it can, as people on the spectrum, our students are really, this is it's a little microcosm of how they have to go into the world, and they can learn how to do this with other people. So I just want to thank you for, I asked her to come about a month ago and join us. She did a great job, and her mom died right before the conference. So she came out anyway, and I also had my sister who had high-functioning autism die 3 weeks ago. So we both, we're both pretty emotional, but yeah, thanks for coming.